Hi, how are you? I'm Roberta Colasino, and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator here in the Finger Lakes region of upstate New York. I had to make a quick run downstairs to take in a package. I don't like to leave them sitting out there too long. So, today we are going to be talking about and working with the Changing Leaves bundle, which is an online exclusive only, which means you won't find it in a catalog. You'll have to go to my online store to find it. It's pretty amazing, and I love leaves. I always have. I typically like fall leaves, but like I said, I'm not quite ready for fall yet. The pool is still warm, and I'm hanging on to summer as long as I can. So we're going to do just, spring, summer colors. And I definitely spent way too much time playing with this. I think we may only have 2 cards today because I just have so many things I want to show you. So let's turn the camera down and we will get to it as quickly as I can. Okay, oh, hang on a second. Just want to make sure that I'm really here and not talking to myself. I do that a lot, but there we go. Okay, I'm here. So hang on just a second and I will put the camera down. All right, so a couple of little adjustments here. Excuse me. All right, you can see my pile, and there's actually 2 other piles right nearby of more things that I was playing with today. So, got paper everywhere. All right, that will have to do for today. All right, so just let me change my view here so I can see what I'm doing and see comments at the same time. Okay, so this is my host code for the month of August, and if you shop in the month of August, please use that host code unless your order is over $150 before tax and shipping. If your order is over $150 before tax and shipping, and you're not quite sure what to do with that order or whatever, just let me know and I'll help you with it. I'd be happy to. So that's that. Let me get that out of the way. So July was bonus days, and that meant that if you made any purchases in the month of July, you earned $5 for every $50 you spent, but those $5 coupons couldn't be used until August. So now you can use them, and please be sure that you do, because I believe you can only use them until August 31st, and then that's it. All right, so if you have any, absolutely use those up. If for some reason you've lost them, customer support, I think, will help you get new ones. And then this is my August daily creative prompts calendar. It gives you some ideas for things that you can do, and it also has some opportunities for you to possibly win a prize. So check that out. And in the month of August, from the 6th, which is already passed, through the 31st, we're having a designer series paper sale. Not every single paper is on sale, but many of them are. And if you scroll up to the very top where it says, why do I always forget what it's called? At the top of this group where it's the important stuff, featured. Under featured, there'll be a link that you can use that'll bring you directly to the information about the designer series paper sale. So that's a great time to stock up on designer series paper. Hang on, I need to get a drink. So this is the Changing Leaves bundle. All right, and I've got all the information there for you. I'm trying to do that whenever I think of it so that you can just take a quick screenshot if you want to, and then you've got all the information. It tells you what page, well, if it's in the catalog, it tells you what page. It's not in the catalog, so you're definitely going to have to look online for this. So this is the stamp set. All right, it's got 3 large stamps, and that's it. And then everything else is a sentiment, but some of them are quite nice. But this is also one of our hybrid embossing folders. So what's cool about this is that for the same 10% off that you would get for just a bundle with stamps and dies, or a bundle with stamps and a punch, or a bundle maybe with stamps and an embossing folder, you get the dies and the embossing folder together because they work together. All right, and I'm going to show you some examples of that, and I'm going to show you how I do that. And I just, like I said, I got super carried away with it and had lots of fun, and just started thinking about other things besides just making cards, like my mixed media projects and whatnot. So let me set this stuff aside and just show you some of the things that I did. All right, so I started to think about how I could add texture to the papers before I actually went ahead and die cut stamps. So that was, let's put that aside. So I did a couple of different things. This shows where I used a kind of a cross-hatching stamp. Now this is a retired stamp, I will confess. It is a retired stamp from quite a while ago. Even before I started marking when things retired, and before the covers of our stamp cases changed. So this is an oldie but goodie, but it has this really large cross-hatching thing, which is one of the reasons I've kept it. And it has birds on it, and I love birds, and I love to put birds in my journal. But if you have even just a small number of Stampin' Up! Stamp sets, you will find that there's almost always something that has texture like this. It might not be this big, or there is something that has those splatter things that I like so much, or lots of little dots. There are lots of different things that you can do. So I chose to use this, and what I did was, for one of them, I used Shy Shamrock cardstock, stamped it in Shy Shamrock and Pretty Peacock. So what I did was I would stamp once full strength and then turn it and stamp it off, another time without re-inking it, and I kept doing that. And then when I kind of liked the way it looked, then I brought in the Pretty Peacock and added some darker spots here and there, doing the same thing. First stamping full strength and then stamping off. So I'm just going to hold one of these up so you can get a kind of a closer look at what that looks like. So it just provides some texture. Now I know this may not be your thing because you're looking at this whole sheet and you're going, oh, what, that's a hot mess. But we're not dealing with the whole sheet, we're dealing with cutouts. So as an example, this is one of the cutouts that I made using the other half of that Shy Shamrock paper. So it's not quite as in your face that way. And then some of the other dies in the set, you're not even going to really see that, but I use the dies anyway. There's just a couple little dark spots. You're not going to notice that at all. So that's what I did to get that look, okay? And I did the same thing with Granny Apple Green, stamped it in Granny Apple Green, and then came back over it with a little Old Olive to make it a little bit darker. So that's one technique that you can use. I don't know what that is. Okay. Oh, I think I was looking for Christmas ideas, possibly Christmas gifts. I know it's too early to be thinking about that too. So this I did, and I think I demonstrated this for you once before, how when I'm using my brayer, Stampin' Up! Has a brayer now, it's a hard rubber brayer. When I'm using my brayer, I usually take just a piece of scrap paper. Like here's an example. So this was just kind of regular paper, I think. And I cleaned the brayer off on it. But when I was done, I thought I could do something with that. So I used, oh, what is the name of that set? Oh my gosh. No, it's not Simply Said. It's the one that die cuts the words. And I don't see it, so I may have it packed up somewhere. But anyway, I used that so that they came out looking a little bit different than just white or just a solid color. So this time I purposely got some white cardstock, and I went ahead and I just used the brayer, inking it up on the different pads, starting with Granny Apple Green, then a little Wild Wheat, then Old Olive, and then Garden Green. And I did it in this order, okay? Oh, this says blending brush, and this is not the blending brushes, so hold please. I think I got things mixed up. Yep. Wait. Oh, I see why it says blending brushes. Never mind, I was right. So what happened is when I was all done with this, I liked the way it looked, but there were a few white spots, places that I missed. So then I came in with the blending brush and just the Granny Apple Green and just went over it in places where I saw a little too much white. So basically 99% of it was done with the brayers and using those 3 or those 4 colors. And I like the way that looks as well. And I cut out some things. So I ran the whole thing through the, I ran the whole thing through the through the hybrid embossing folder, so it ended up looking like that when I was done. This is just the other half of this paper. and then it cut out the 3 leaves that are part of the hybrid embossing folder, which are these leaves here, and there's a third one somewhere. That's not it. Well, it's here somewhere. Oh, I see it. Like I said, I've got stuff everywhere. I really just got wild and crazy and carried away. So we have those 3 leaves, and I love the way those look because you see some different colors. So even though it's not quite fall yet, if I go outside and pull some leaves off some of those trees, some of them are going to have some variation in color. They're not necessarily that deep dark green that they might have been in June or July. They're starting to change a little bit. It's still shades of green. We're not seeing any red or yellow yet, but I think that's a really beautiful look as well. Just going to put those over here. So that's how I achieved that look. Okay, and then the last one, I used nothing but the blending brushes. And I used, in this order, on this side, Lemon Lime Twist. You always start with your lighter color first. Granny Apple Green, Old Olive, Lost Lagoon, and Garden Green. I didn't really feel like I saw very much of the Lost Lagoon in there, so I decided with the other side of the paper I would start with Lost Lagoon, add Shaded Spruce, and then Pretty Peacock. And I also cut out letters, so this is like the top half of this paper here, the one that had mostly Lost Lagoon. All right, so I cut not flowers, they're leaves, aren't they? Yes, that's what they are, they're leaves. I cut leaves out of that paper too, and those, no, that's not those, though that's something else. They're here somewhere. Everything is here somewhere. That's the story of my life. It's all here somewhere. Well, anyway, you kind of get the idea. So it would have been the same as this, but just with, well, you know what, though? So I realize that could be it. So when you do the hybrid embossing folder, not only does it cut, but it embosses. And if you take a look at this, this is a 3D embossing folder. There's a lot of texture. So the texture gets pushed into the leaves. So this could be this, but somehow I don't really think it is, because I think I did some that I just used plain paper. I don't see the color variation. Well, on the tip of that one I do. It's hard to tell, but you get the idea. So that's how that worked. All right, and that was just another thing that I did to add some interest. So then I thought, well, you know, being that this is kind of a big image, but it's not just one stamp, I thought I could use the Stamparatus to help me with this. So I got the Stamparatus out. Oh, it fell down. Hang on. Okay, so I got the Stamparatus out. And just like I have showed you in the past with punches, especially the builder punches, how you can punch out of, let's say, just a small piece of cardstock. I've even done it using like a 3x5 card. You punch out, and then you can use that little template. I don't think I have one right here. You can use that little template to set up your Stamparatus, or even if you're just using a block. So what I did, and I'll take the whole thing off and do it again, is I took the... Hang on. I've got one here that has the word save, save, save written all over it. And I lost it. Okay, well, you know what? It'll still work with this. So let's just say I had this and I had stamped out using the hybrid embossing folder. So now I have this here. I'm going to set this down on my Stamparatus platform, and I'm going to use these magnets to hold it in place. And then I'm going to take these stamps off of here, and I'm going to turn them with the side that you would use to stamp, the side you would ink up. I'm going to turn that down, and I'm going to wiggle it around until it fits, and it'll like pop right into place, okay? This little end is not wanting to cooperate too much with popping into place, but it's pretty good. Then I'm going to take this other stamp. Sorry, let me make sure I'm in the screen here. You saw only one of those, but that's better than seeing nothing. I'm going to take that one also upside down, and it will fit in. And then I'm going to take this one. So if we were using a smaller thing or a punch, this is where I would now take my stamp block and put it over this. But I'm not using a stamp block, I'm using the Stamparatus. So what happens is I press it down, and then I lift it, and it's like magic. So now these are in exactly the right position to be die cut using that die. Okay, are you following me? I hope you are. So here's an example of one that I did. All right, so I put it on here and I inked it up. And what's great about the Stamparatus, and I know we don't sell it anymore, and that's a shame, so I will tell you that many companies do make similar stamp platforms. There is one that's made by Tim Holtz that's very similar to ours in terms of how sturdy it is, but Stampin' Up! Is the only one that had the ability to put two different platforms in. They didn't have just one. It comes out. If you can find one used online, I would highly recommend it. And then you could do two things. So you could stamp this down, lift this up, and then have something else, like maybe some type of background, and put that down and stamp it, okay? It's just amazing how it works. And somehow they were still saying that we were infringing somebody's copyright. Nobody else, to my knowledge, has a stamp platform that does this. Excuse me. There's also one called the Misty, and that's the one that's made by the company called Sweet Petunia, and they're the ones that sued everybody so that we couldn't use them anymore. And when I used it one time, I borrowed it from someone at a crop to use, I found it to be very flimsy. But while doing this today, I had some second thoughts, so let me explain to you, okay? So after doing this stamping, I put this right through the dies. I taped the dies on. I didn't need to use the hybrid embossing folder because I didn't feel like I needed the texture. Excuse me. All right, so what you do when you're stamping this is you tape down your paper, use these magnets, and these magnets are super, super strong. While I was showing a couple of the ladies in class yesterday how to use them, and I'm very intelligently explaining how you can't get them close together, I get them close together. And what happens is that they're so powerful that they go to each other, and if that happens while they're like laying down on a table, they'll literally break. I did put some duct tape around them, which gives me an easier way to pick them up. Excuse me. And I think also allows them to be a little bit less strong, so to speak. So what happens is now you ink this up, and what most people do, and I think it's a good idea, is to take a stamp set and put it underneath, because now it's even, okay? If you're doing it like this, it's at kind of at an angle, and if you press too hard or leaned on it, I suppose you could snap it. And then you take a stamp pad, and you open it up, and you turn it upside down, and you ink it. Of course, this isn't right now, but it's not right. I am so sorry. I'm having major problems with my voice all of a sudden. Let's see, this one just might have been done a totally different way, because I'm not seeing, oh wait, is that it? No. So we're just going to have to pretend that is that it? That's it. Okay. So when I set this all up, I would have had my paper in here exactly so that it was perfectly lined up. So that you're going to still have to pretend, okay? Pretend it's perfectly lined up, because it is definitely not. So you ink it up, and then you close it, and then I did buy one of these things, and if it looks like an air hockey, whatever you call it, I think that's because that's what it is. It may have a thicker felt on it, I don't know. It's called a, oh my gosh, I knew what it was called. 4 different times today I said what it was called, talking to somebody. Anyway, people hand carve these out of wood. It's an artist's tool for printing. It was an artist's tool long before anybody invented any of this stuff. But if you don't have strong hands, or you want to make sure you're getting a really good impression, you can use this, and it won't scratch the plastic because it's got the felt on it. So you can use that. And the beauty of the Stamparatus is that if you open it up and you say, oh geez, the tip of that didn't get enough ink on it, and oh, over here it didn't get enough ink, you ink it up again. You can ink up the whole thing or just the parts that are missing, and you can do it again. And if it's still not right, you can do it again. Now, if you do notice that the parts that are not getting inked up well, let's say, are this tip here and this area here, it could be because of the magnets. So all you have to do for your next press is move the magnets to a different location, but you definitely want them, because if you don't have the magnets, the stickiness the stickiness of the stamps is going to lift up the paper, and then you no longer have your position. So I hope all of that makes sense. This is just an incredible tool, and whoever invented this for Stampin' Up, in my humble opinion, did an amazing job, because it's just incredible, the whole idea of having the two platforms. And at one time you could order extra platforms, so if you were doing a class or something, you could have 5 or 6 of these all ready to go, and they would just have to pop them in. They wouldn't have to reposition anything. So that was just wonderful. Okay, so there's the thing that said save on it. So this I'm saving if I don't lose it again, because this can always be my template now for those stamps using the Stamparatus. Okay? Okay. So I can pull this out now because these were cut, and so I would have these two. I think these are garden green. Okay, now I will say that when this ran through the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, one of the plates shifted. So it's totally lined up here, and then as it got to the top, something shifted. That is just not a problem. I showed the ladies in my class yesterday how they could just trim off any excess white, or in this case I think I used Very Vanilla, and they were kind of making fun of me because they said they never would have even noticed it if I hadn't brought it to their attention. And certainly the people that you give your cards to would probably never notice it, but if you're a seasoned stamper, I think that's going to bug you. It bugs me. So I'm just trimming a little bit. I'm still leaving something on the edge because we usually do that. But I'm just going to give it a little trim so that it's not so obvious that there's more of the white or Very Vanilla here. And I'll do another little trim here. And I'm just kind of following the outline. I'm not knocking myself out, doing anything crazy or anything. I'm just... Come on. There we go. All right, so now that's ready to go. And I think the others were all pretty good, so no problem there. So now those are ready to go and to be made on a card, and these I have not cut out yet. This one I hadn't lined up too well, so it kind of goes off the edge a little bit, but as you well know, we very often make cards with something that hangs off the edge and then we trim it, so I'm not losing any sleep over that one at all. All right, so like I said, because I was going to take the time to explain all of that to you, I think I only prepped for 2 cards. So, and that will show you some other techniques as well. So for this card, I have a garden green card base. And I was reaching for my bone folder because I knew that this wasn't quite lined up. So I tell people all the time, just remember this is paper and you can make it do what you want it to do within reason. So if it's not lined up right, just hold it in place and burnish it down with your bone folder and make it do what you want it to do. Sometimes it's a little stubborn, and to tell you the truth, every once in a while I just take the paper trimmer and trim off a tiny, tiny bit if that's going to be an issue. But then sometimes I'm very stubborn about it and I tell the paper, you will do as I say. I love when I can exert authority over something or someone that's not going to argue with me. So this is Very Vanilla, I think. Yeah, Very Vanilla. So I just decided to use it because I don't use it that often. I seem to only use it at Christmas time. I love the way it looks with Christmas colors. So that is 4 by 5 1/4. And then this is one where I just ran garden green cardstock, nothing fancy, ran it through the embossing folder without the dies or anything, and you can see the great texture that you get there. I hope you can. Again, I never know what it looks like to you versus what it looks like to me, but I think you can see the texture. So this one is 3 3/4 by 5, so we're just simply layering those. Alright, so let's just go ahead and glue the parts together. All of my little glue bottles, I think, are still packed up from yesterday's class. Pretty much the majority of the people in my classes prefer those bottles. And we were talking yesterday about how, to be very honest, how very messy some of these ladies were with their ink and their glue when they first started, and how they're just not messy anymore, and they're doing things like looking at their hands before they touch their cards, which is something I taught them, because there's nothing more frustrating than putting your thumbprint on a card that you're 99% done with, that you really like, and then all of a sudden there's your thumbprint. And you know, sometimes you can cover it up, sometimes you can fix it, but sometimes, you know, once in a while you can't, depending on where it lands. I love this embossing folder. It's a 3D embossing folder, which means that it embosses more deeply. I didn't really think to show you the embossed or the debossed side because they really are kind of different. Um, the embossed side is the side that's raised, and the debossed side is the side that goes in. And depending on what you're doing or what kind of technique you might be using, you might want the other side just as much. This will be the liner of my card, and I'm either going to stamp it or glue something onto it. Okay, so now what I want to do, just to keep this really simple, is just put, and I'm going to have this going in the well, let's see, I don't want it covering all of that up, so I'm going to put it in the opposite direction so you'll still be able to see some of that. And I'm going to pop that up with dimensionals, but before I do that, I probably need to think. Yeah, I need to think. I tell people in my classes all the time, think about your sentiment, because you haven't decided yet whether your sentiment's going to be some big honkin' thing or a little strip or something that's going to have to go into a circle. So you really have to think before you position things on your card front, what sentiment are you using. So these are all pretty small, which is nice. In fact, some of them are very small, almost too small, but what do I know? You are amazing in every single way. Here for you, a little note to brighten your day. Thank you. I couldn't have done it without you. And I have someone that I need to send a card to that says to them, I couldn't have done it without you. So that's the one I'm going to be using on this card. Couldn't have done it without you. I want to make sure I've got the right one. Yes, okay. So this one is not too big, so I don't need to save a whole lot of space for that. So I'm just going to need a scrap. Oh, but I don't have white. I'm not using white, so I need a scrap of very vanilla. Oh, I got one. As I was saying, when you don't use the color a lot, then you don't have scraps either, right? So, the other great thing that happened with the Stamparatus was that because I had not used this stamp set yet, when I used the Stamparatus, I remembered that I forgot to do the thing that I've taught you where you stamp and then smush it and stamp and smush it and then clean it. So the first stamp was not good at all. So I was very glad that I had, that I was using the Stamparatus. All right, so let's, and I think I'm just going to stick with garden green for everything here. This is going to be a very garden green card. And I could certainly do contrasting colors. I have seen some beautiful cards. Not a lot of people are doing fall colors yet, so I couldn't see any samples of fall colors. Oh, wait. So I almost just messed it up, even though I just told you. So I'm going to do my stamp and smush thing. Stamp and smush, stamp and smush. And in case you haven't heard me say this before, it's because there is at least a belief. I'm not saying that Stampin' Up! Has confirmed this, because they probably have not, but there seems to be a belief among stampers that the photopolymer stamps, hang on, I'm looking for my chamois, that the photopolymer stamps have a little bit of a coating of some kind on them, and that doing that gets the coating off and makes them stamp better. So I like to think of it like priming the stamp. And it does seem to work, so that's really all I can tell you. And with photopolymer stamps, if they're wet, you really don't want to stamp them. I'm not wearing jeans today, I'm wearing light colored shorts, so I'm kind of smacking it on my hand just to make sure there's not any excess moisture on there. Okay, perfect. That doesn't happen every day. Okay, so I couldn't have done it without you. And you know what? All my punches are downstairs. Of course they are. Still packed up from yesterday. Because we did a lot of, well, we didn't do a lot, but I offered a lot of choices of punching. We didn't actually end up using them all. But I offered them. Yeah, I really don't have one here that I'm loving for that. So I think what we'll do then is just get the baby trimmer out. And if you didn't see my post, I posted earlier a link to a trimmer very similar to this one on Amazon. So the story with this trimmer, if you haven't heard that, is that it was offered as a joining incentive. So if you signed up to be a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator that particular month or whatever it was, you got one of these as a joining incentive. But they allowed demonstrators, current demonstrators, to buy them so that we could demonstrate them, like on our shows or in classes or whatever, in the hopes that someone would want to join to get the trimmer. So people are always asking me about it and saying, where can I get one? And we've asked, many demonstrators have asked Stampin' Up! To sell this because it's really cute and it comes in very handy. What I will say though, which I think I did some really crooked cutting there. What I will say though, that I did say on my post earlier today was, this stamp area, or area where the paper can go in rather, is 6 inches by 4 1/4. So you can't even put a piece of 6 by 6 paper in here and measure it to be, let's say, 6 by 5 or even 6 by 4. Well, I guess maybe this line here is 4 1/2. So it's not good for everything. And sometimes I pull it out and then realize it's not going to work and I just kind of get annoyed at it. It's great for cropping photos for sure if you don't have one of those wonderful little photo cropping trimmers that I think it was We Are Memory Keepers made years ago, where it even had a little drawer in the bottom to put your photos in. Again, I don't think they make those anymore, but this one cuts really well. I've been using it for several years now. It never seems to dull, and I really like a guillotine cutter for lots of reasons. So there we go. So now I'm going to put that there. If I wanted to, I could edge this with some green using a, what do you call them? A sponge dauber or something, but I'm okay with not using that. So we're going to go ahead and get some dimensionals on this. And I'll show you what I do when I've got such a skinny thing like a stem. You can take a dimensional or a piece of one of the edges and cut it and make it skinny. But I don't worry about that. So what I do instead, what I do instead, don't know where the take your pick tool is. I thought I unpacked it, but I'm not seeing it. I've been trying to stop using my fingernails as tools because I'm trying to let them grow. And I bought some of that Sally Hansen gel nail polish. The only problem is it apparently doesn't come off with no acetone polish remover, which is what I like to use so that my nails don't get destroyed. Okay, so what I like to do is I just put a little bit of glue on the tip because this is a very fine thing and you don't want it getting caught up in an envelope or anything. And I think that it's just not a problem if everything else is popped up and that is glued down. I don't think anybody's going to notice that or care. I can be very OCD about some things, but this just isn't one of them. All right, and then this I could glue on or I could pop up. I actually think I'll glue it on. Sometimes I like a little bit of contrast. We want it to be right side up and we don't want to drop it. Okay, some of the people in my class yesterday made these really cute glue holders, and actually one of them messaged me today and wants to make 2 more, so I'm sending her the kit to make more. If anybody would like one of those kits, just let me know. Alright, so there you go. Now I also could have used one of these that I used the I think this was the brayer or the brayer. It has some garden green in it, so that would have given us a little contrast. I could have used that, no problem. I probably could have even taken this one, which, yeah, see, that is white paper. So that was the one that I did with the blending brushes, but it must have just been a particularly light excuse me, area. Could have done that for some contrast. You know, you tell me which do you like better. I kind of like them all, so I'm not being too fussy. So for my inside of my card, because the only stamps that come with this set, except for the sentiments, are those 3 large leaves. There are small leaf dies, but there are no small leaf stamps. So if I was going to put something on the inside using a stamp, then I would need to take the stamp off the Stamparatus and get a block and get the garden green, because I guess I'm just in a garden green kind of mood. And I'm just going to put a piece of scrap paper under it, because when I do this I typically do a little stamping off because I maybe don't want to take up all that room. Oh, and where's my pad? So with photopolymer stamps you need a pad, and just so that you know, the Stamparatus has a pad under it that you can use or not use depending on what you're doing. Alright, so I'm just going to take this and stamp. What am I doing? I'm stamping the card, not the scrap paper. I'll stamp a little bit like that, and then I could maybe just do another one in the other corner. Maybe I want to take up some room because I don't have to write a long message, although actually in this card I probably do. I really am very grateful to this woman for some very good help that she gave me with something, and I literally could not have done it without her. So I really want to say thank you, and I'm sure I'll have some very nice words to say to her too. And then we'll glue that on the inside. Okay, so that's card number one. I'm going backwards. It's basically a simple card. I mean, yes, you have to do the stamping, and yes, you have to do the die cutting, but it has a simple look to it. So maybe it's not necessarily a simple card to make, but it's a simple looking card. It's simply elegant. That's what I think. Okay, card number 2. And I think our final card, although who knows, I might decide to just play with what's on the table here. Alright, so for this one, I did a basic white card base, and I cut the wrong way. I meant to score down the middle and on the 8.5 side, and instead I cut. So we've got a card that can go this way, portrait style, but it can also go this way, and I think I cut the pieces to go this way, so that's what we're going to have to do. So I took one of those pieces that had the the cardstock was Shy Shamrock, yes, Shy Shamrock, and this is the one that I did with that crosshatch stamp, and I cut it to 2 inches by 4 1/4, so it would fit perfectly right here. And then, I'm not gluing it yet because I'm not sure about this one. I cut this one to 4 1/4, so it would fit this way. So this is just embossed, but embossed on just white cardstock with no coloring. You could take blending brushes and color this. It would be really pretty, or you could take the sponge daubers on the tip of your finger and color these. You know, you could do anything you wanted. You could do some all over baby wipe coloring, where you dip your baby wipe in ink, or even on your ink pads, and then you just kind of swirl it around. That's a really nice technique. I don't know if I've done that one in quite some time. So I think I want this over the top of this, because I don't like that kind of raw edge there. So I'll glue this down first, and if by some chance it's a tiny bit too big, I can trim it. You want to hope that it's not too small, because that doesn't go well. When things are fairly heavily embossed like this, you also want to make sure to use, a little bit more glue than you would before, than you would normally, but get as much of the glue as you can in the high places, because the low places might not touch, so that's not where you need the glue. And then I'm going to put just an extra dot in every corner just for good measure. Oh, and now I might have turned it, so now I really have to stop and think which way this is supposed to go. Okay, that way. And basically, to get it lined up, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to pick it up and push it down that way. Okay, not there yet. I thought maybe my paper wasn't lined up right, but it was. Okay, and then, there's such a smidge hanging over the edge. I don't know if it's even worth trimming, but I'll take a look at it. Well, maybe I should look at it before I glue that piece on though, right? Yeah, again, not anything that anybody would see. It's like a hair, literally a hair. Okay, that was it. That's all there was hanging over. Okay, and then I'm going to put this one on. And let's just make sure that looks right too. It does. I had some people watching last week who I did not recognize their names, and I thanked them for popping in because they're not my regulars. I didn't stalk them to find out where they were from, so I have no idea where they're from, but thank you for watching. And, you know, please, when you're watching, don't be shy. Don't be afraid to say who you are. I promise I don't stalk people. I won't put you on some mailing list where you'll get 10 emails a week, and, you know, I just don't do that. So don't worry about that. It's a non-issue. And then this one, which I said, at this point it's looking so pale because for some reason, you know what, I wonder if the action of going through, I just don't know, because, well, this isn't the exact one, but, oh, this is the one. So I just don't know why it came out so, you know, without so much of the different colors on it. I feel like I'm not speaking English. It's pretty. I just almost, a part of me wants to get out the blending brushes and add some more to it, but I think I'm going to resist that temptation. So I want it kind of partially on there and partially on here. I still want to see some of that. So I think that might be my best bet. I was thinking of making that into a fun fold, but I think that's not sturdy enough to hang over the edge by itself unless I put, like, maybe glue two together, then it might be. So I decided against the fun fold idea. I thought that might not be such a great plan. Okay, so we'll go ahead and do the same little trick we did before. We'll put the dimensionals on the leaves themselves and then a little glue on the stem. I've got little notes on the back of this as to what colors I used so I wouldn't forget, so I could make those sheets. And maybe I'll take some pictures of those and post those as well, just so you can kind of see them if you didn't get a chance to take a screenshot. And you're interested in how I did that. And maybe you looked at it and just said, yeah, that's pretty weird. I'm not interested in doing that at all, and that's okay. I won't hold it against you. I do like to try, you know, different things and kind of artsy types of things, if you want to call it that. That's just kind of who I am. Okay. So, wanted to make sure, it's always good to check and make sure your card's going in the direction you want it going in. But if that ever happens and you realize, like, your card's going this way or something's wrong about it, just cut it off and put it on another card base. Just start over again with just that. You don't have to restamp. You definitely don't have to throw it out. Heavens no. Just cut the front of the card off and mount it on the top of another card base. So that one had a little piece slightly bigger. Still not a major problem by any means. And then kind of wondering, what if, I'm going to try something. We'll see if it looks like it's going to work. I'm going to get out the baby trimmer again. Oh no, I can't get out the baby trimmer. See, that's the problem. It's not long enough to do that. Well, it might be. I might be lying. Alright, so I'm going to trim. I want to get that little flat piece off where it didn't get embossed at all. So I'm going to take that off. Just a little bit, and then I'm going to take this just far enough so that I'm not getting that leaf in there, so it's not, so none of the cuts will show. So I'm just making a strip, and then this should be long enough. Look at that. All right, I'm going to turn it upside down because there's not very much pretty on the end there. this. And then instead of stamping inside this, I'm just going to use this. I could stamp. I could also glue in one of the leaves. I could do any of those things, but I'm choosing to just use this. Okay? So it's just a little strip, a little cutoff from the embossed piece. And then there's a little bit hanging over. We're just going to snip that off, and that's all there is to it. So that is card number 2. My goodness. I've been yelling at one of the cats a bit today, but Jackson Galaxy says not to yell at them, so I try not to really yell loud. Plus, it's summertime and the windows are open, and I don't want the neighbors to think I'm crazy. Plus, I realized one day I was kind of screaming at the top of my lungs, "Stop, stop, don't do that, that hurts." And I thought, oh my gosh, someone's going to call the police because they're going to think somebody's in here like killing me. So I realized that, because they say the one time you should yell at a cat is if they hurt you and they think that they're just playing. Thank you, Cheryl. They are very pretty, aren't they? And, I feel like I'm bragging when I say that, but, when you start making a card, you don't know what you're going to get. You really don't. And obviously, I do have some things that end up in the trash bin, or some things that I totally redesign before I let the world see them. But for the most part, with the products that we've got, not to sound just like a salesman, honestly, it's kind of hard to go wrong. You get everything you need, and the color coordination is amazing and whatnot. So back to the cats. If they're hurting you, but they think they're playing, then you're supposed to make a big deal about saying, "Ow, ow, it hurts," and like looking sad or pretending you're crying. I don't know if they get that or not, but I've got one that likes to stand on a counter and bite me in the back while I've got my back turned getting something out of a cupboard. That's kind of annoying, and it does hurt. And then he bites my feet if I happen to be barefoot, and he bites the back of my legs while I'm getting his food ready because he thinks I should get it ready instantly. So, it's not terrible. He's not like killing me or anything like that, but I try to get him to stop. So there we go. And I think I showed you some stuff. Oh, you know what I didn't really show you, though? I didn't show you the other die cuts. So these are the other die cuts. So aside from the ones that cut out the 3 big shapes, this shape, and this one, I'll show you all different colors. We've got, those 2 are alike. There's this one, there's another one, hang on, and there's this one. So there's this double one, this single one, this little sprig, and that sprig has like little round things on the tip that could sure shoot and be berries. So you could take a red pen and turn those into berries if you wanted to as well. And so these were done with the cross hatching one, I think, not with the blending one. And then this is what the stamps look like if you just stamp with the stamps, as opposed to just cutting it out. There should be one more in here somewhere, maybe, or maybe not. I might have used it for something. I've been playing all day, like I said. And what I will say to you, too, that I've mentioned before is, if you're going to sit down with your punches or your die cut machine, and you're saying, well, I want to make a card where I need one of these on the cover, don't just go cut out one of these and then be done with it. It took me maybe half an hour to do this today. Or I did it, I had lunch and took breaks in between. But if I had just sat down to cut all these, it would have taken me, and I'm not even done yet, there's more over here. Would have taken me about half an hour to do all of them, maybe 40 minutes. And now I have all of these. And if I wanted to make 10 cards tonight, I could probably make 10 cards with what I've got here. Or 2 weeks from now, if I want to make this card or something similar again, I'm just going to have a box or an envelope or a bag or something full of these, and I'm ready to go. So don't ever just do one. That's kind of silly, especially with the punches. Punches are great. If you've got the punches and you sit and watch television at night, you have a favorite show, grab a punch, grab some different color papers, grab some stamps, and just sit and do that. Or just punch out circles that you might use for sentiments or whatever. You missed a fun class yesterday, Cheryl, but I know you had company, and I'm glad you enjoyed that. So, I think I think. Not just for you, because there were some other people who weren't there yesterday. These were the cards that we made in class yesterday, and I made this one on a Facebook Live, and I made that one on a Facebook Live, and I think I made that one on a Facebook Live, but I can't remember for sure. So these were the cards that we made yesterday, plus some of the ladies made the glue holder, which you said you don't need. So just so you know, I probably will have some extra kits of these, and because several people like them, I might bring a couple of them back again just in case next week with some new ones as well. Alrighty, so there we go, and thank you so much for joining me tonight. And if you're catching me on the replay, leave a comment. Let me know who you are and where you are. That's always great. I enjoy hearing from people, especially once in a while I get someone from another country, and that's always fun. All right, thank you so much. Have a great weekend coming up, and have whatever. I'll see you next week.